simplistic thing, but it's so deep. We're always becoming. It never stops, right? It stops once that embalming fluid is in us, right? And we're getting lowered into the ground. Until then,
we're all very encouraging, very inspiring, and she actually motivated me. I appreciate the fact that she was so authentic and very personable, and it really made me feel like I relate to her story. What am I inspired to be? Just the best version of myself.
You are listening to Unleash the Podcast, revolutionizing the way women grow, work, live, and lead. Engaging interviews, insightful book reviews, and timeless gems to aid the modern woman in excelling personally and professionally. Hosted by the multi-passionate Tabitha D. James, Unleash the Podcast not only empowers listeners, but also equips them with applicable action-based resources for daily life. Hey, what's up? Hello. It is time for part 2 of the Becoming book review. Super stoked. Hope you are. If you hear cars in the background, it's simply because I'm in my favorite place, the car. You guessed it. So if you are listening to this in real time, there are only 9 days left, or 8 days, something along those lines as it relates to day counts, until Unleash the live event. Super excited for this event going down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, Saturday, November 16th, Doubletree Oceanfront Resort. And this event is for female creatives and thought leaders. So if that's you, and you're listening in real time, check out the link in the show notes. Not you, feel free to sign up to be a volunteer, sponsor a ticket, or just send good vibes, y'all. Sponsoring, hosting, bringing together, all of those things as it relates to events is super challenging. So send those good vibes my way for me and the team. All right, let's jump into this book review. So in part 1, I kind of alluded to my key themes from the book, right? Self-awareness, how important it is to choose your partner wisely, excellence and knowing and operating and being in your excellence, identity and family and support. So I kind of scratched the surface with some of the themes that I got from the memoir. So in part 2, I'm going to break those down a little more and just show how those can show up in our everyday life, right? So this insightful book review will link that insight book review. Got it? Corny? Okay. Anyways. So as we dive into transparency and family, Michelle, when she kicks off the book, Becoming Michelle, so that's like in part 1, and she makes those connections about how her home structure was growing up, how her family dynamics were growing up, some of the things she was and was not exposed to as it relates to the family that she has. She is very transparent in letting us know that that had a strong hold, and I don't want to use that in a negative or positive connotation. I want that to be completely neutral, but that had a strong hold and foundational piece of her and who she became and who she's becoming, because essentially years on down the road, which we will get to, when she develops her own family, there are some things that she wanted to ensure that even though these young ladies were exposed to campaign trails and lives much different than her or Barack could have ever imagined, there were some foundational pieces as it related to family and structure that she really wanted to hold on to. And so I highly respect her for that, because I feel as we grow, as we evolve, as we shift, oftentimes we are forced to shift certain dynamics of ourselves, and it's hard to hold on to what we really want to hold on at the core, right? There was no way for her to protect her girls from being in the spotlight, right? Your dad is running for different offices and getting put in the political and professional limelight, and then essentially he ends up becoming the president of the United States, the first one of color. So essentially there was no way for her to protect them from the spotlight. However, holding strong to things like, okay, we're having dinner at this time, this is when bedtime is. Hopefully dad can make it, but if not, I am going to ensure that there is a routine and a core sense of value as it relates to my kids and their day-to-day life structure. And for those of you who may work in youth development or have any awareness or consciousness as it relates to growing young adults, humans, having structure is a very critical foundational piece for our maturing minds. And so I have a high regard of respect, as she could have allowed that situation to go always different and said, you know, my babies are going to stay up until dad gets home and we're going to do it like this, or screw family dinner because we're about to be the first family. There are several ways that could have gone differently. So I just have a high level of respect, not just because of what she did, but how she navigated, right? The authenticity in, I want this type of structure for my life. Furthermore, connecting to the piece of self-awareness, right? You know what it is that you want, and you know how you want your family dynamic to be. So kudos, high regards. Oh my goodness. And I appreciate her for breaking that down the way that she did. Though I am not a mother or a wife, I am certain that there are mothers and wives that read that and were like, you know what? This is good. This is inspiring, because, you know, my husband might be, or wife might be, the CEO of XYZ company or the executive director of XYZ thing, and I'm feeling the pressure or the need to transform my life in such a way that fits their needs, but am I staying true to what it is that I want and what I desire? So I really could go on and on and on about how she held strong to her value system in that regard. But I'm going to just jump on over to her as a professional, right? She goes through all of this schooling, family supports her through these things, and then once she realizes that she's unhappy, though it was not praised upon and or taken lightly, if you will, that she was going to shift her career and life structure, she still did that in spite of. And that is super inspiring, because when not first gen as it relates to higher education, but first gen as it relates to some other aspects of life, as it, you know, growing and scaling a business, launching into new dimensions, not doing a traditional lifestyle, definitely very first generation in that sense, right? And I think it takes a high level, or I know that it takes a high level of courage even now to do that. So I can only imagine how hard it was to navigate that situation when you have, you know, blue collar, hard working, I've strived to provide you with the best life type parents who really aren't trying to hear that you want to leave your job because of your feelings, right? She states that her mom's like, you know, you can worry about your feelings later, because to mom, it's like a slap in the face, because she's never really got to sit in and or address her feelings. It was all about, you know, her children and making sure that there was a way made for them to have a better life, an easier life. And oftentimes it's not explainable, if you will, that different life, that better life, that easier life, quote unquote easier, because I think that all things have challenges, just different types of challenge. So I think it's hard to translate those values to people who may not ever be able to understand what it is that you have going on. The authenticity in sharing with us her dad's transition and how ultimately that had an effect on the family dynamics, and how she journeyed through that, how they journeyed through that. I was very empowered, if you will, because oftentimes, though it's simply an illusion, we forget that people in position and power have normal struggles that, you know, money can't fix, degrees can't coddle. Like, they are still everyday people with everyday issues. So I like the way that she intertwined very intimate pieces of her story into the book. partnering was another thing that I really wanted to highlight on this book review, because essentially her and Barack were very different, right? Both highly competent and intelligent folks, no doubt about that, with determination, drive, grit, all of that, but just cut from different cloths, if you will. So the way that they were able to intertwine their lives, sacrifice for one another, and the well-being of their embryonic relationship was very admirable. And then as they journeyed on to procreate and to have Sasha and Malia and kind of grow that family and find the balance of the two, was interesting. That double backs to earlier. She held strong to what it was that she wanted in the structure base, and he still was able to be a dad and an example, while also being the risk taker, the politician, and the person who can't always make it home for dinner, but know that I love you and that I'm out here advocating for not just myself, but everyone, right? That, in that piece where she's like, he's thinking about, like solving world hunger or alleviating poverty in certain areas and things like that. So it was very attractable to her to be connected to someone like him. However, there had to be some adapting on both ends, because essentially that is why I don't like the whole equally yoked statement. I do feel that you need to be equally thinking or have an equal understanding of each other's differences, but you can be cut from different cloths and still be able to intertwine and weave together for a great life. My next point is the importance of self-identity and support. So as she supported her husband and she identified ways that she could be a key component in his campaign, that was very, very much another admirable moment for me, because I think that as reluctant as she was in a certain time of life, she could have easily said, this is your campaign, I'm not getting into it, I support you, me and the family, we support you, we hope that you win, we're excited, but not diving head first. So I like and just cheer, rah, rah, woo, woo, go Michelle, for the way that she interjected herself to identify ways that she could actually support and align with the campaign trail, seeing ways that she could go into certain areas and have small groups with women and be very intimate with them and just show her own authenticity and be the desirable first lady for those women. So then leading them to vote for Barack because they had made such an impressionable first encounter or second encounter or multiple encounters with Michelle. And so the way that she stepped up to be that form of support while also ensuring that she could create a life of normalcy for her family, drops mic, okay? Drops mic on the excellence of you can have it all. You may not be able to have it all in one season. You may not be able to have it all the time, but there is a unique way for each of us to intertwine our lives in such a way that whatever having it all means for us, we can have it all. Right? So if having it all means that my kids eat dinner at the same time every night while my partner is running for office and we together as a family are ensuring that we are supporting each other in the best way possible, that may be having it all. For another family, having it all may simply be having the freedom, flexibility, and finances to say, let's go spend a month in another country, or let's go, backpacking in the mountains for the next week, or let's just, chill. So whatever having it all means, you can have it all, just maybe not all today, not all tomorrow, and not all at the same time. Essentially, you must realize that having it all for me and you may look different, right? Having it all for you and I may or may not be the same. And
my final point as I wrap this just insightful linkage based, because I think that there are several things you can pull to link to your own life and your own situation. So thinking outside of the box, if you will, as you read this book or any book, seeing how you can take, especially memoirs, how can you take nuggets of inspirations and pockets of gold and apply them to your own life. Resiliency, right? The challenges and changes that come with putting yourself in spaces that you are not traditionally in is tough, right? So there was resiliency when she left the South Side and went to pursue higher education. There was resiliency when she decided to continue that higher education. There was resiliency when she decided to switch her or pivot, or however you want to coin the terms, her career path, right? There was resiliency in becoming a life partner for someone who is chasing the Oval Office, right? There is resilience when you become the first family of color and you are working to mother young children, support a husband, and uphold a platform of your own. Resiliency. So as you look to compartmentalize the different aspects of your life, how is resiliency going to show up for you? Right? What ways are you going to ensure that you're supporting yourself and surrounding yourself with supportive based structures to uphold the life that it is you want to have? How are you going to realize that you are, or wake yourself up, or continually remind yourself that you are forever becoming, right? You never arrive. Life is a journey and not a destination. And so even in this season of life now, as they are 2 to 3 years out of the office, what does life look like now? How are we becoming? How are we upholding that standard? How are we pouring into the next generation of leaders? What ways can we share our authentic story now without it being a legality issue? There we go. Legality issue to the country that we once served. How do we support this life after the office? How do we ensure our support for our family as our children grow and mature and develop an identity of their own? How do these things all tie together is rooted in resiliency and being able to ever change, ever flow, and continue becoming. Right? It's never a destination. It is always a journey. We are always becoming. And that's one of the biggest pieces that I snatched from the book. It's the most simplistic thing, but it's so deep. We're always becoming. It never stops, right? It stops once that embalming fluid is in us, right? And we're getting lowered into the ground. Until then, we are always becoming. And so pulling from some of those key terms of transparency, authenticity, self-awareness, who are we partnering with? What does our support structure look like? What does family look like for us? How do we jump over some of those hurdles that may be barriers because of who our family is or was? How do we ignite our own resiliency so that we are able to kind of coin and coil our own life story? How are we going to make sure that we are continually becoming? So that's that, y'all. Becoming Insightful Book Review Conclusion. Drops mic. I hope that, this was insightful. If you have read the book, please feel free to jump in my inbox on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, email me, smoke signal, whatever. Let's chat through some of those logistical pieces in there that were just very insightful and inspiring, or let's talk about how you maybe agree or disagree with how I feel about what was shared. Let's chat, let's connect. If you have not read the book, grab it, as well as that journal. I am patiently waiting for that to drop because I feel that there are going to be some guided questions in there that will help me to continue seeing how I will become, right? How am I going to draw out that plan? We know that plans change, right? You want to make God laugh, make a plan. However, on the reverse end of that, God can't change a plan that you don't have.
So I am excited for the journal, and I am excited for all that the Obamas will continue to put in the world, because they are helping to develop the leaders of tomorrow. They are helping to pour back into the next generations. And so super excited to continue watching their life after the office. What a legacy to be alive with the first family of color. What a legacy. What a time. And so Ever Becoming, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Catch you next time.
Very encouraging, very inspiring, and she actually motivated me.